Okay. Man, I got these newer Sennheiser headphones on sale at Best Buy for like 50% off. So I got them for like $70.
Dude,
I was
that's
thrilled.
what these are, and I've had them for like 4 years now. I freaking love them. I don't think I'd ever buy another brand.
Yeah, these ones, I know these are newer, different, probably speakers and shit, but they're pretty great too. I love them. They actually fit my giant head too.
Nice. I did the jerk thing where I went to a Best Buy to try them on and then bought them online because
Nice.
they didn't have the color I wanted.
I think I'm building my computer finally here soon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like next week sometime. It's gonna be pretty sweet. Excuse me.
All right, we are live. Everything's ready. I already got some pictures, unless you got anything really good you like.
No.
We're just waiting for people. Oh shit.
Cece didn't have her computer yet. Did you see her message? No. Did you see Cece's message? No, you're gonna still have one. Cece didn't have her computer yet. She said she could dial in on her phone.
Damn it. It's this one. All right, I'm back.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey. Hello.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Can you talk so I can?
Yes, I'm trying to make sure I can. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. How does it sound?
I'm getting a lot of background fuzz.
I wonder if that's this fan. Hold on.
Joe.
Yeah, bruh.
You scamp.
Oh my God, are you wearing that?
Hey, so I was confused because you never were back. Were you talking shit to me today in that email thread or not?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So then it was warranted.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Only because I think we've talked about The Strangers coming out for like the last 3 weeks or so.
No. First of all, Joe, you weren't even on the show last week.
Yeah, well, we definitely did the week before. Sorry, I cut you off, Cece.
Oh no, it's fine. I was just asking. I was going to ask Eric if he could hear me any better now.
I can hear you fine, but whenever you start talking, all of this like bad fuzz comes up around you. How far off is Kyle with your computer?
Well, he says that he's 15 minutes away, but in Atlanta traffic, that can be anywhere from 15 to 45.
Yeah.
So,
Well, why not? Do you mind waiting and just joining us once you got it?
no, of course not.
Okay.
I'll text you, and if not, then it's cool. I can just bow out.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry too. All right, I'll talk to y'all later.
All right. Bye.
All right,
Bye bye.
Bada doing doing doing.
I was interested in that Lost in Space remake on Netflix, but it's got Parker Posey in it, so now I'm on board.
What kind of tone does it look like? As long as we're waiting on Schnars, I might as well look at the trailer.
Oh, there's a trailer?
Yeah, there's a new trailer just came out today.
That's not a
It
series.
looks pretty sci-fi
It's not a series
without the
that.
cheese.
It's not like a series that really means anything to me, but if it looks cool, I'll check it out.
Yeah,
See,
it looked all right.
I'm watching it right now.
So your wife didn't divorce you yet, Joe, for your Baja?
No, she's pretty close. She said this will not be a weekend thing and we will not be going out in public with it. Joke's on her.
Dude, this thing looks amazing.
Yeah, it does.
Holy shit. It's hilarious. It's hilarious, though, hearing the thing say Danger Will Robinson, but in like a serious sci-fi tone, not just like kitschy 50s, like Danger or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Looks dope, though.
The teaser they put out didn't do much for me, but that trailer is pretty slick.
Where's Parker Posey?
She's in there in the background somewhere.
Huh.
Shows up closer to the end.
Yeah, that looks cool. Yeah, it's really amazing. Like, it's amazing Netflix like spending that kind of money on programming. I mean, I just think a lot about it in terms of like the shit that's churned out on broadcast television still.
Oh yeah.
And like, maybe I guess a company like Netflix just has so much money that they just need the content, so they're willing to spend the money on it. But, and also like, I guess because it's subscriber based, right? And it's not like whether or not a broadcast show is a hit is really dependent on the advertising, and so that's dependent on the viewers. Whereas Netflix, it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If something sticks, they just move on, or if it doesn't stick, they move on, or if not, they make more, or they, you know what I mean? It's just fascinating to me because like, just the shit I see churned out at networks.
I'm just curious, like how much something like that costs to make.
Well, that's
like
my point. Is it looks like expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I assumed it was a movie when we were watching it because I haven't read much about it.
And it's not like they're. I mean, that the promising thing for the future is it's not like if their stuff that they're putting out isn't working out, they're not propping it up and trying to keep it going. They've actually canceled quite a few things. I think a couple things, anyways, that they've put out original content wise. Hey, buddy. Have you watched the new Joel McHale show yet, Joe?
I watched the first 2 episodes, or I guess it's all there's been, right? Or no, there was one this week, right?
Yeah, there's a third one, I think.
It's all right. I don't think it's as funny, but maybe just because it's just getting going. But
yeah, although they had a good skit this week with Paul Feig with his face in Mankini's ass.
I also wonder if it doesn't seem like they can get all of the talk shows and stuff, which I think kind of takes away from it.
I'm excited to have it back, though. So I'll give them their. I mean, I've been enjoying it for the most part, but it's definitely not quite the same.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll definitely stick with it for a while.
Man, did you guys watch any of this stuff live on cable TV yesterday with that Sam Nunberg dude or Nunberg or whatever?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about.
He was like a low level or he was at some point involved with the Trump campaign. He was fired before the election, but Mueller brought him in and basically demanded a bunch of emails by subpoena, and he's saying he's refusing to comply. And he literally started calling into every live cable news show yesterday afternoon. Like, he sounded either like he was having a nervous breakdown or he was drunk or high or all three combined, and was just spouting off, saying this insane shit and saying, like, Trump definitely did something. And, like, I was talking about Nunberg yesterday, Schnars. You saw this stuff? Dude, so, like, I was at work and we had TV, so we were watching it, and I was like, I literally cannot believe what I'm seeing right now. It was probably the craziest thing I've ever seen on live television.
I mean, there's a lot of, like, backlash right now to the fact which is, like, kind of fair. Like, at a certain point,
so
is this media or is this news, or are we just, like, letting a crazy person be on TV now?
I specifically watched the first MSNBC hit. At that point, I feel like it was newsworthy and it made sense to put him on. At the point where, like, Aaron Burnett is having him on TV 6 hours later after he's been on every fucking show all day, that's definitely the point where, like, it feels exploitative, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. But I definitely don't blame the first people for, like, putting him on.
Is this the show? Are we on the show right now?
No.
I'm so confused.
No, but I'm ready to go because I want to get this shit going.
We're going to piss off that one guy on Twitter.
Let's knock it out.
Let's not worry about that.
Let's not talk about him.
Yeah, let's not. Okay.
I didn't mention names.
Everybody mute and we'll go.
I'm going to be eating a cupcake just as an FYI, so you might have to watch a little bit of that.
No, I'm going to have a boner while John's eating a cupcake.
Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be talking about Victor Crowley, a movie that feels so out of time, it reminds me of Joe's shirt that he has on tonight.
Rastafarianism!
We'll get to that in a little bit, though. I'm the host for this evening. Joining me tonight, first up, from Manhattan, New York City, he is the business manager at Bloody Good Horror. Please welcome John Schnars to the show.
Hello, Eric.
John, I see you're sporting that half beard there. I like it.
Yeah, you know, I haven't shaved like with a proper like shave razor and shaving cream in like 2 months. It's actually been glorious.
And yet you have a perfect goatee line on the side, like
Yeah.
you've been.
well, I
landscaping.
like trimmers it. You know, I give it the trimmer once over.
Sure.
You trimmers it.
I think that's the term.
Next up on the show, he lives in Chicago. His name is Joe, and he drinks beer. Please welcome Joe to the show.
Hey guys,
I don't
how we doing?
I don't know why I said your name as part of that, but you know what I mean.
Joe
Oh.
to the show.
Joe to the
And
show, I like it.
last up tonight from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hi.
Joe, well, let's just get right down to it here. What possessed you to go out and buy a drug rug? We should maybe explain to people who didn't grow up in the 90s what a drug rug is.
It's to your layman terms, the Baja.
Baja.
Something- You'd see it on Spicoli or any
Yeah.
your average day hippie or gringo.
Hmm.
I had one in high school, and I want to say it had to have been about like 10 years back. I was working at a job, and my buddy there, it was his birthday, and he's like, my wife bought me this, and like opened up this box, and he had like a Baja in there. I'm like, I forgot those existed, and I really want one. And then it's been literally like a 7-8 year argument with Leslie and I about bringing one of these into the house, and finally over the weekend I'm like, you know what, I'm doing it. I'm taking the plunge. So
You
Here
feel
we
like it's like she's in too deep to divorce you at this point.
yeah, at this
So-
point, you know what, we're both really tired. She's not going anywhere. It's empty threats.
I mean, that's literally the beauty and the horror of the world we live in, that like any dumb thing from when you grew up, you can just go online, and if you can't find it on eBay, somebody's probably just making it new now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Saturday morning I got up, ordered it. Now it's Tuesday, and I've got it sitting here. That's Amazon.
Now it's Tuesday, and you're itching all over because it's literally like wearing a burlap sack.
It's surprisingly soft. I mean, I can't vouch for the makers, but it's a lot softer than I remember, and not nearly as itchy.
Did it come with an ounce of weed, or is that you got to go pick that up at the store?
I think I haven't fully
You get a discount on all future ounces of weed that you buy.
Oh, it's like a
Right.
membership
It comes
card.
with a punch card.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's made out of weed, so you can just like rip off pieces and smoke that.
Yeah, if you buy 5 of them, you get an ounce of weed free.
Speaking,
The
that's
THC
funny.
is just like seeping into my skin right now.
I've never heard of it referred to as a drug rug. That's a good one. It's fitting.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's perfect. Speaking of the 90s and Joe, man, I have been going on an odyssey in the
Oh, I can't
last
wait for this.
week into Joe's mind. Something possessed me last weekend to pull. Something made me think of Joe's running playlist on Spotify because I was doing dishes. Or
Well, he was
something, and I'm
talking about
like,
it on Slack for a little while.
Yeah, well, no, but that was like a while ago. I don't something
I think
randomly.
you started
it was like
following-
last week.
Oh, was it? Maybe
Eric,
that. Maybe
you
that's what
started
it is.
following it after Mark's bachelor party, because I think I was playing part of it
Yes.
at the party, and that's when you got hooked up.
I mean, all you got to know is you open it up. The first song is Timber by Kesha and Pitbull, and then it just gets weirder from then. It's like I just learned a lot of things about myself. Like, so do you remember Black Rob? Do you remember that dude?
Oh.
I didn't.
Whoa.
No, I don't.
Like, whoa. Like,
Mhm.
whoa. That song?
He was supposed to be the savior of Bad Boy. Like after like
Yes,
Biggie was
yes,
gone
yes.
and like they were kind of on the decline. Like Black Rob was going to be like their
Like-
big comeback.
After Biggie, but before Shine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then, like, I've discovered this really uncomfortable fact about myself, which is that I might be the world's biggest fan of the All About the Benjamins rock remix.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Like,
controversial view, but far superior to
Oh.
the original.
yeah, like if I could only bring one song to a desert island this week, I've decided it literally might be that song.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's so good.
Yeah, but it's every song that has popped into my head over like probably the last 4 or 5 years. It's how many? I've got
It's
it
a
in front
lot
of
of
me.
random weird like punk stuff that I've never heard
It's-
of.
Yeah.
It's around 200 songs, if I remember.
Oh, it's
'cause-
335. It's
Oh, okay,
21 hours worth of music.
But I
There you
also
go.
like just a lot of random novelty stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, here's a bunch of Lonely Island songs out of nowhere, and
But like it's that stuff that gets like stuck in your head, and like that's what I need when I'm running, because
Yeah.
it takes your mind off of the actual running.
Well, Joe, do you listen to it in order? Like, is it in a distinct order where you're always starting at the beginning and then you start?
No, I
things up, or-
shuffle. I just
Yeah,
shuffle.
okay.
oh, I
Alright.
mean, the shuffle is great because you almost like never hear the same thing twice.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Can people can find that, right? It's public.
Yeah, I've got it shared. I mean, you follow it obviously. So yeah, just I don't know how you find me. I think I'm just Joe Charney's on Spotify, and then I
Well,
have a few shared playlists. It's just called Running. So if you search for,
I have literally like been either texting or G-chatting Joe all week just about random crap on this thing and like what is going through your head, man?
I think I was at my. I just switched jobs, and I was at my going away party, like huddled in the corner, texting Eric about I think Run the Jewels or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the DJ Khaled or something. No. DJ
Shadow.
Shadow. Yes.
Yep.
That song
That's
is
a thing.
sweet.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's like the first track, right?
Yeah, Nobody Speak or whatever.
Yeah.
Is the rest
The
of it
video
that
for that
good?
is insane
Like,
too.
is
It's
there is the rest of it that good?
No,
Oh, bummer.
at least not in my eyes. Like you know,
Yeah.
people might be into it. It's just not my thing.
Weak. Speaking of hot jam, Snars, do you listen to the show last week?
So I have not listened to it. I have it though on the old iPod,
Snars.
as you do.
Yes, John, I understand how all technology works. I'm asking, did you actually take a few minutes?
No,
to listen to
I
it?
have not had a chance to listen. I don't like to listen if I haven't seen the movie because I actually want to see the movie.
So you missed the debut. What you're saying is you missed the debut of the Danger Girls?
I participated and celebrated in the debut,
As
but
you should. Too bad
yeah,
Cece's
but
not here right now. She will be here later. We can talk about it more. But
Yeah.
it's safe to say we took the internet by storm.
It's the biggest phenomenon we've ever had on this show.
I
People
think
are
so.
demanding shirts. merch.
Oh yeah, so Sophie and Cece and I have been in a direct message chat on Slack all week. One talking about Annihilation and like we've now created our own private book club with Spencer, and we're discussing the book because I'm reading the book now. And then Sophie has been trying to come up with the logo for the Danger Girls.
No.
all right, we get it. You like them better than us. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to take it personally.
It's cool.
I mean, you know, the one saving grace is they can print all those shirts, and John will never actually post them on the site. As I look at 40 Bloody Good Horror reunion shirts.
All right.
Have you read the Annihilation book, John?
No, I haven't.
Dude, it's good.
Pretty good.
It's
Pretty good.
It's a quick read.
It
I-
is.
I'm about
yeah,
halfway
it's like-
through.
Okay.
You gotta see that movie though. Did any of you guys see Annihilation?
No,
You guys all need to go out and see it. Which reminds
I'm
me, Joe.
playing it.
Joe, top 10 list tonight.
Oh yeah, let me pull that up so we don't forget.
Maybe bottom. We'll see. What's John? Next
Well.
week we got somewhat of an event coming up. Maybe potentially.
Maybe.
Little known fact that Eric discovered today: The Strangers 2 is coming up. So
Yeah. There's only been like massive amounts of promotion for this thing. Eric,
Well,
Eric
Joe's-
got one Instagram ad.
Joe's trying to convince me that we've been talking about it for weeks in the show, and I do not think that's true.
we've definitely talked about it in like our schedule for sure.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
definitely been.
Too bad somebody like me didn't put together a spreadsheet of upcoming releases
Well,
and add it on
that's
there.
that's different. You know, I don't read that. That's the difference. Joe's trying to claim that in the conversation that I definitely participate in every week that this was happening.
I think it's right
Participate.
after.
Sometimes you're zoning.
I think
You're
that
good.
I think
The
I
D-
said the words. That guy is holding a knife, but that's not what he gets killed with. By the way, we're doing Strangers.
Well,
in 2
no.
weeks.
Okay, first of all, we've had multiple people write in to say A, that he was holding a knife. You tried to backtrack and say that you said he had a knife, but he attacked with the pipe, and then you went back and listened and said, actually, no, I didn't say he had a knife.
Yeah, I thought it. And your definition of multiple and mine might not be the same.
No, we had at least one emailer, and we had somebody on Slack, and then literally a dude that I'm Instagram friends
Yeah.
with was hitting me up in a random comment thread on one of my pictures to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I also saw a knife. It's been driving me nuts all week.
Well, just so you know, I mean, the Twitter account was Barrack Boole, so I don't fully trust that.
I like it. The fact that surprised me about Strangers is, I guess, in my head, the trailer looked, I guess really what it is the trailer looked bad. And so I was like, there's no way this is going theatrical, but this ad I saw, it claims it's going wide theatrical, John.
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
when
the
I went
last
to
movie
see-
the last movie did very well, so I guess that would make sense.
Yeah, and the reason I think we talked about it is because I'm pretty sure we discussed the fact that the director of the previous one, I think he's a French guy, Maybe I'm just making that up. In any event, I think he wrote the script here, or he was credited on the story or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, suck me blue.
Yeah, there was when I went to see Black Panther, I think there was a huge display. It was one of those displays. They had like a couch that you could sit on and get your picture taken with I don't know,
So you get your picture taken?
No, I didn't do that, man.
Have you guys seen the 3D cardboard displays for Ready Player One that look like Rubik's cubes and they actually spin?
No.
But they're they're huge cardboard things.
Huh.
I don't get that movie at all. I just don't.
I mean, it's a book.
I would think that you would have a huge boner for it because of the subject matter.
I think 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I'd barely be able to walk with how turgid I would be. But today,
all right, settle down.
Today, I just don't. I don't get why. I mean, the only fascinating part to me is that Spielberg is directing it, right? So it's really weird. It's really weird for somebody to be directing that movie that was directly responsible for all the stuff referenced in the book, right?
At a certain point, do you think he's actually going to ride little Spielberg animals through the desert or something?
That makes me intrigued more than anything because I don't know. I think that connection could mean he could bring something interesting to it.
Sure.
But I don't know.
It doesn't all take place in the 80s, right?
No, it's just all about Casey. I understand what the movie's about. I've seen the trailer 4
Okay,
times.
I'm making sure.
But it's all about having 80s boners and we're living the future, but we love the 80s. We're from the South.
I mean, you say you know what the movie's about, but you didn't know that Strangers was coming out next week.
Well, listen,
roasted.
Neither of those things are important facts to me, so.
In any event, Strangers next week. It's a thing. There's some people on the Slack that are pretty excited about it.
Those people are wrong.
Listen, a bunch of people were hyping Victor Crowley up to us too. So the stock I put in literally anyone's opinion on movies these days is about zero.
Yeah, you're Danger Girl.
You heard it,
pretty
all
much
of you. Yeah. Come on, don't spoil the Victor Crowley review. We haven't even gotten into it yet.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah, what's up, G?
Oh, he totally threw me off. What are we drinking this week?
Beer guts.
Victor Crowley. You all probably know the Hatchet story of a Mongoloid man down in the bayous of New Orleans.
Inappropriate.
And, is that what's the term at this point?
Continue. Sorry.
A Rocky Dennis-faced gentleman down in the New Orleans bayou. And in honor of the fine city, I picked a beer from Abita, which I think many of you may know is from the bayou of New Orleans. Oh, I guarantee. And the beer I picked from those guys is their Amber, which is a delicious lager-style brew. You've probably seen Ambers on tap, if you will. Michelob, I think, is one. Maybe I could be wrong there, but anyway, it's a little darker than your traditional lager or pilsner. More of that sort of malty caramel flavor comes through, but still very light and drinkable. It's definitely not a heavy beer. This one only comes in at 4.5% alcohol, so along the same lines as your Bud or something like that. So you can really knock back case after case and still be fully functioning, doing your day job and whatever. A bit of I think a lot of people know their Purple Haze, and a handful of their other beers. They're pretty widely distributed throughout the U.S. and most of their stuff is fairly good. This one I like because it's a little got a little more bite to it, but Abita, abita.com is their website, and you can most likely find this one in your neck of the woods. So give it a go.
Delightful. Thank you for that, Joe. I'm excited. It didn't even occur to me that we might get a Joe accent this week.
Oh, I guarantee.
Speaking of,
by accent, you mean 3 phrases.
You
good town on the bayou. You get a good.
We might as well say this now. We got an email from a guy named Paul who says, "It was very brief, but please make Joe do Sam Jackson's voice again."
Sam Jackson. I
couldn't-
don't even remember what that's from.
Yeah, I have no idea what you were doing Sam Jackson's voice for. All right, guys. Speaking of,
I'd be willing to bet that came off as racist, and I'm a little nervous about where it was.
all right, guys, it is time. Let's take a quick break and discuss Victor Crowley.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
John Schnars,
Yes, Eric.
are you sure you don't trim the cheeks at all?
No,
That
that's
is
natural.
unbelievable. It's like smooth
Yeah.
as a baby's bottom.
Well, no, there's a little bit there. It just doesn't show up.
Okay.
You,
Sure.
you got definite like deadbeat dad face. Like, I don't
Yeah.
have the kids this weekend. 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
you know,
nice.
everybody wishes they could look this good, Joe. I get it.
All right, John. Please bring us
Yes, sir.
the word of the day.
Eric, today's word, hoodoo.
Ooh.
H.
You do.
H.
Do
well, we can come back to that.
Remind me of the
Hoodoo. So hoodoo, I'm not going to really be, I'm going to be reading from Wikipedia here. So as we've discussed, Victor Crowley set in the bayous of Louisiana. He is resurrected through, I believe it's a voodoo curse. It's sort of, they don't get real specific on the details. I went into a little bit of a voodoo, let's call it Wikipedia hole. And one of the places I landed was hoodoo, which is actually different than voodoo, sort of straight voodoo. But hoodoo is a folk magic. It's also known as conjure, root working, root doctoring, or working the root. So I thought Joe might be able to tell us a little bit about it. But,
Fun fact, root working is how Joe paid his way through college.
Well, you know, I did a little hoodooing down on South Street in Philadelphia, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so hoodoo is a traditional African-American folk spirituality that developed from a number of Western African spiritual traditions and beliefs. So essentially, this is probably, I mean, it is a folk magic. It's my guess is probably not heavily followed anymore, but if anyone knows more, please let me know. The word stems.
I feel like Cece really needs to be here for this.
It would be helpful. The root or the sort of origin, at least again listed on Wikipedia, is from the Togo or Ghana tribe, the Yue, and actually stems from the word hoodoo, H-U-D-U, although it's spelled here H-O-O-D-O-O. First documented in the American English in 1875.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Sweet,
Go
John.
down by you get that hoodoo out of this here Portugal.
Now I just have Magic Dance stuck in my head from Labyrinth.
Could do worse.
John, tell me about this here Victor Crowley.
Victor Crowley, 2017. I guess we can have a conversation about the actual release date here. I mean, so the world premiere, I guess, was August 22nd, 2017. It is the fourth film in the Hatchet series, directed by Adam Green, starring Kane Hodder, I guess, as well as Harry.
They got him,
Shen.
huh?
They got him. He was available. Perry Shen, who I believe is in the original. There were some other characters you guys seem to recognize. I mean, Tiffany Shepis, I'm familiar with, but some of the others maybe we can come back to. But yeah, it's the fourth film. I believe we covered the third. I don't think we covered the second.
I don't know. We might have, but I mean, we might have. So he made this by surprise was one thing I wanted to mention, that he made it just kind of on the DL, and then there was a 10th anniversary Hatchet screening scheduled, and right before they announced, oh, psych, this is actually the latest Hatchet movie. And there was also an anecdote that somebody relayed to us over Slack today that supposedly he told at one of these screenings that he just felt like he was done with Hatchet, and he was at a convention like talking to George Romero, and Romero was like, I don't know, man. People seem into it. Like, why not just like lean into it and embrace it? And he was like, "Oh shit! Now I feel like I have to make one of these things."
Yeah, George Romero was like, I got 14 more Land of the Dead sequels to make. So
exactly.
I thought I forget who said it on Slack actually, but I thought like the quote was actually that he was like done with the genre in general.
Yeah.
Which,
And then Romero was like, "Bro, I made Diary of the Dead. Like, it literally couldn't be worse." So
yeah. I mean, we should come back to the question of whether the people who were lining up for the 10th anniversary screening of the original Hatchet were pleased or displeased with the experience of watching.
Everything that I saw seemed they were very pleased.
Yeah, so it's in some ways, like I don't even know what to get into from a plot standpoint. Essentially, a bunch of people land back in the bayou. Quite literally, actually, they land as part of a plane crash in the sort of realm of Victor Crowley. One of whom is one of the original survivors of the I believe it's the first Hatchet.
Yeah,
That's what he survived. Yeah. So
I want to say. I want to say that he was like the tour guide character who was kind of just like he was kind of shystery in the first movie. I think he went the whole movie pretending to have a Creole accent, and then you find out at the end that he doesn't have one.
Yeah, so in any event, he's sort of the main character here. He is out promoting a book that he wrote for the 10th anniversary of the original Hatchet, or in the film, the experience of being hatcheted, I guess. And he essentially is like sucked back into the world, or into the Louisiana Bayou, and at the setup for how Victor Crowley is resurrected is actually the most ludicrous thing. So you then also have a film crew who is trying to make a movie about Victor Crowley, or a fictionalized version of the Hatchet experience. And they're watching YouTube clips of how to say the sort of voodoo curse that reawakens Victor Crowley so that they can film the sequence. And they drop the phone, and that basically that night then unleashes Victor Crowley for real. And he goes on, a hatcheting spree, and, that's that.
Well, and then I was zoned out for a second. You got to the plane crash part?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially that's how you have the Perry Shen, the survivor character. He lands back in the bayou because he is being flown back there by his ex-wife, who is now a television host, and their crew to film a sequence of him basically revisiting the bayou. And while on their way there, they crash, but they just land in the exact place that they were trying to get to in the first place.
And all survive.
Yeah,
except for like
true.
one.
Well, except Tiffany Shepis, I guess.
Hey Joe.
Oh, spoiler. Yeah.
Joe, how do you feel about this?
I have not been a big fan of any of the Hatchet movies. The first one didn't do anything for me. This one, I don't really remember them. Like I've tried to kind of block them out, but this one I would probably put on the same level as the others. Like Adam Green, I just don't care for. Like I wasn't a huge fan of Frozen, but I can kind of get why people be into it. I just don't think he's funny, and this movie in particular, and he did it on, I forget what the hell the name of that show was that he had for a while.
Holliston.
Yeah, it's the same sort of just like, I don't want to call it dumb humor because I think that is insulting to dumb humor, like Tom Green type humor, but like this, it's just it's like
he understands the basic beats of humor, but then the part where you actually make it funny, it's not.
Yeah, it's just uncomfortable. It's like Rob Zombie trying to write a comedy. Like it feels like just like fart jokes without actually having farts in it. I don't know. Whatever. It's just it's not good.
I think there was at least one fart in this.
Oh, of course there was. But and I don't know. I mean, the idea of Victor Crowley isn't entertaining enough for me to like be, kept glued to my seat for this sort of thing. We talked a lot about it over email. Like they spent almost the entire movie in an airplane, like in the whatever you call it, the cabin of an airplane. So it's not even like there's like cool sort of atmosphere. Like at least I can give the first three that like, they're kind of running through the woods and like you have that sort of bayou setting, which is a little interesting. Like this is literally just 6 people sitting in a tube while he's like Victor Crowley's running around killing anyone that leaves. Like it's
Yeah,
It's-
and it's
it-
not like it's a 747; it's a private jet, so it's
Yeah.
freaking small.
And it looks like super low budget shitty. Like he comes in at one point and like starts knocking over chairs, and it's obviously just like a freaking recliner. Like it's poorly done.
My favorite low budget part of the movie, and like, I mean, here's the thing, right? They're trying to lean into it because they are low budget, and I think from the start, part of the charm of these things is like this low. You know, I get that. I get the B movie thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It still feels flat even within that kind
Exactly.
of lane.
You're on the fourth one. Like the B movie charm is kind of worn off.
Right.
Like now it's just coming off as a shitty movie.
Casey, what'd you think?
So I'm in the same camp as Joe. I never really got into the Hatchet movies at all. I think the first one I may have enjoyed a little bit, but I've never been diehard, and none of the sequels I cared for. So I wasn't really expecting anything out of this, and luckily I had the right expectations because I didn't really get a whole lot out of it. Joe covered a lot of my problems already. It's the fact that they stick in this tube of this tiny little private jet for 50, 60 minutes in an 84-minute movie is rough, especially when, as Joe had alluded to too, with the previous movies, they set up a whole story around Victor Crowley, the whole Bayou thing and whatnot. And the closest we get to that in this movie, the fourth one of the franchise, is a couple trees and some swamp water. They could have played on that whole angle a lot more and still expanded on it, and it still would have been interesting than stuck in the back of a plane.
I mean, I'm not even convinced that most of this was even shot in the woods. I actually feel like a large portion of this was shot on a soundstage.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if not, they made it look like a soundstage, which is impressive.
Yeah.
John, what about you?
Yeah, it's funny. I think I'm gonna be like the defender of this movie, which is like a ridiculous place for me to land. No, well, here's the thing. Like, I actually really like the original Hatchet. I think, and I'm sure I've talked about this on the show. I think I reviewed it for the site. It might even have been the first thing I ever reviewed for the site. If not, it was like something I reviewed very close to when we started the site. And I loved it when I first saw it. I saw it in the theater, had a great time. It's basically been diminishing returns on every single one since then. I think the second one was like definitely worse than the first, maybe significantly so. The third one was definitely worse than the second. You know, this one, without having seen the third one in a little while, I think that I like this better than the third.
I wasn't feeling angry leaving this one so much, whereas I definitely remember being like not happy after the third one.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I don't even disagree with any of the like knocks on this. I think my expectations were super duper low. I also I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about the humor in this. I agree that it's not the funniest movie ever. There were several moments that made me chuckle. I'm actually like the ratio of what hits or misses isn't great, but I definitely laughed at some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. And so there, I will take it, I'll take what I can get. I do, and we talk about it a lot, like I appreciate the love of practical effects. Even if these are just like ridiculously goofy ones, they're still enjoyable, from a practical effects standpoint. So I don't know, like I'm there is a small niche of people that I would recommend this to, but I will not throw it on the like absolute garbage pile.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. It's John's number one pick for 2018.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not an absolute garbage pile movie.
Watching something like this in 2018 is a real like existential thing for me, because I just can't help but think about the horror fan I was in 2003, say 15 years ago. 2003 was really, I talk about it a lot, but it was the year that we finally started breaking out of the 90s kind of overly censored horror, overly mainstream horror, and you had stuff like Cabin Fever and House of a Thousand Corpses, and that stuff felt really really fun and edgy and like reverent to that 80s stuff in a way that felt really amazing to and I was so in on that. I was also really young. So I think like I don't know, I was like invested in a way that I don't necessarily feel the same way about now. Invested in like, I don't know, feeling like that those movies were writing some kind of injustice, you know?
You're making a really interesting point, which is like, and I think that's where it's impossible to talk about that first one without talking about the context. Like, it was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and I
when
also
you saw
I also saw that at a horror con. It was my first horror hound. It was where I met Casey, where I met Casey for the first time. I saw it at a midnight screening that was introduced by Tony Todd, and I remember thinking, like, I don't necessarily love the movie, but that was like an amazing experience to have. It was one of the first ever experiences I'd ever had like that. But what I mean by the existential thing, John, is so I'm thinking about that person that saw that first one, and I'm thinking about me now, and I'm watching this movie, and it's just doing absolutely nothing for me. Like, I might chuckle at a gore scene, or like I thought that the tour guide character was actually pretty funny. He was the only guy who seemed to understand that he was in a B movie, I feel like, because he really was just hamming it up in a way that I was really enjoying. But like, and the thing that's wrapped up with all these, right, is this idea that you know, of like the Hatchet Army, and how this fan base is kind of grown around this, still holding that torch of, you know, 80s horror and gory horror movies and blah blah blah. And the point I keep making, have been making for like 10 years now is, like, we're not fighting that battle anymore, dude. We won that battle. And so, not to say that there's a problem with this movie existing, but I don't get excited by it, and I'm kind of nonplussed by the whole thing. And so when you take away the excitement of it feeling transgressive or feeling like it's bringing back, you know, like it's rallying the troops, then all that's left is kind of a really, really rough around the edges B movie that, honestly, for large sections of it, is boring as hell. And like, I think that the last 10 minutes are kind of awesome. And there's like a manic energy to it when they finally are confronting him. There's wind blowing, and there's like a bunch of funny sight gags in a row. But that energy really needed to be translated to the rest of the movie, because without it, there's parts of it that you're like, they're in the air for like a half an hour.
Dude.
Well, I think that's part of the problem of them being stuck in this, you know, inside the airplane for the entire thing. Like, to John's point, like, the first one, I'll agree, like, does have like some really fun moments. And I think a lot of that is sort of like that, like, last 10 minutes, you know, like that sort of running around and like, you know, wacky shit is happening, which I don't think you can really get with just him like smashing through windows and watching them talk for like 10 minutes about how they could possibly get out. Like, you really lose something. Like, it felt really lazy.
It felt, it's too small, right? Like, you're in the woods. There's no excuse for it to feel small. You're outside.
Yep.
But like I said, it literally felt like it was shot on like a 20 by 20 soundstage. And like one of the funny parts of the first movie was this repeated like Scooby-Doo gag where they would run and then I'll stop in a point of the woods, and then he'd jump out and scare them, and then he'd go, ah, and then like scream and run to another place. But it's kind of insane how little time we spend in any other. There's like 3 sets in the whole movie.
Yeah, well, Victor Crowley's not in the movie enough. I mean, that's like another way of saying it.
100%.
There's not enough kills. Like, there's not enough, because there's really, I mean, it's funny because there seemed like there actually were a lot of characters when I think back on it, but I don't, like, there didn't seem to be enough kill sequences.
But
and
I mean,
know,
there's a lot of
that's why with boring talking.
But there's also there's a lot of characters, but there's no one else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But
like there's no background people fleshing out the world around them at all.
Yeah, that's a big part. But like you were talking too, that first part, the parts I did enjoy, like with the first movie, and even the parts that I probably enjoyed in the second, third movie, they're out running around in these swamps in the bayou of Louisiana, and Victor Crowley's popping up out of nowhere, and you don't know where he's coming from. You don't know which direction to run from and everything. And that's what gives you the little bit of thrill as you're watching it, because you don't know where he's going to pop up from and give you that jump scare. Whereas here we spend, and I'm not exaggerating when I say they spend 50 to 60 minutes inside this body of this plane, and he's just stomping around outside the plane, and he pops up in the windows every once in a while. It's not scary.
Well, I mean, it's not really meant to be scary, but it's just not interesting. Like, it's not fun. Yeah. It's not fun or wacky or over the top. Or
I
say
scary in meaning like jump scares and stuff like that. And it just doesn't happen here because you know where he's coming from, because he's got 4 options in the 4 windows stapled to the side of this plane.
It's very obvious that this is very low budget, and I totally get that. And there's a larger thread here too about Adam Green, and we talked a lot about this over email. he just is a dude that you want to like, especially as a horror fan. Like
Yeah.
you really know, you get that love for the genre that he has,
Yeah.
and it's like the I don't know, the idea that he made this as a surprise and like he kind of unveiled it to fans. He's traveling around the country with it. I love that. I love that about him, and you can feel that goes into the making of the movie. And I think that 10 or 15 year ago me would have been happy to just jump on the train and praise this, but I just could barely sit through it.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. Like personally, like I think he seems like a cool guy, and I agree that like I would like to see him succeed. But I
Joe,
kind of
you don't have to like him. It's okay.
I want a guy to succeed, but I disagree with, because every time you say like, you know, you want him, you know, it just seems like he loves the genre. Like I think of a movie like Jason X, which a lot of people have problems with, but I still think is a lot of fun.
It's
you know,
fun the
there's
whole way through. Yeah.
there's some heart
Yeah.
in it. Like I just don't feel like there's any heart in this movie. Like I feel like he's just kind of going through the motions,
Yeah.
and he threw Victor Crowley into like a shitty movie and like didn't put much effort into it. Like to your point, like the kills in this, like there's a couple that are like that crazy sort of over the top, but then like there's, well, he steps on someone and like that's it. Like, you know,
I'll push back on that a little bit because I think, and
you'll
Eric
be
hit on it.
wrong when you do.
Well,
just like-
no. Here's the thing. Like, my guess is they made this movie for like $100,000. Like, this is like,
so what though? I mean, there's a
Sure,
lot of
yeah.
movies like made for
yeah,
shit.
I mean, yes and no, right? Like, to your point about like saying like there's no heart in it, like I actually think all the heart went into like just making it. Like it was like, and you, it's fair.
Just
it's
like
fair
you're
to
saying,
like say
like-
that it's not good. I agree with you on a lot of that, but
Maybe
Yeah.
there was heart in the beginning, but I feel like it's one of those things where you get excited to do something, and then you're 15 minutes in, and you're like, I don't really want to do this, but I still need
Well,
to finish.
but that's
like,
my larger my larger point though that I said over email was like maybe look some filmmakers just have a skill ceiling, and that's kind of is what it is. I'm serious.
if this is his, that's
it's
really
low.
sad.
I mean,
Well,
it's
no,
definitely low.
no. I think Frozen.
well,
I think Frozen would be his best movie, like by far, and it's a really good thriller. But
Maybe this is a case that, like, you know, you take his passion for the genre and the, you know, the period of the '80s and stuff like that. And we've talked about this with, I think, Rob Zombie in the past, stuff like that. And he writes the script himself. Maybe he needs a writing partner to help him spice things up a bit. And not to say he's got bad ideas, but maybe like you talked about with hitting that skill ceiling, maybe he needs somebody to help him past that
but it,
to get some more of that love out of his brain in new ways.
I also feel like this movie was made on a lark in some ways. Like I feel like you hear that story about him talking to Romero. I don't know. It doesn't seem like he had a great idea for it. It just seems like he thought, hey, 10-year anniversary. Now let's just do this and I'll get a job, and he just like,
It kind of makes you mad at Ramiro, right? Like you kind of want to go and like spit on his grave or something. Like, thanks, Dick.
Oh,
You
boy.
could have stopped this.
No,
and the other point about the kills, like maybe this gets my horror cred card revoked, but like I just don't care. Gory kills just
Little
don't
bit.
do it for me anymore.
no,
They
no,
had-
like it's fair. I just like you can be creative and they can be like that can be the fun, right? Like
Yeah.
the one kill where it, for no reason, what's his name? Victor Crowley just chops off all the arms and the legs of. I think it's like the first scene.
Yeah.
Like that is just like I was just watching it being like this is fucking ridiculous. But like, in a
Felissa
funny
Rose
way.
and her cell phone was funny too.
I
that
guess,
was like a little.
like, I think I would have thought this was funny when I was like 18, and I don't mean that as a. Here's the thing, and again, John, when I say that this movie sent me into like an existential spiral, I am not joking, right? Like, I'm not saying that as a negative thing that an 18-year-old might be way into this, but what I'm saying is like maybe there are movies that are way more suited to younger genre fans, and I'm just
I mean,
not,
there definitely are.
and I'm just not in that place anymore.
Yeah.
But
I
that's-
think for
but
me, the
that's the
large
thing.
part, and
Am I wrong about this movie because I'm old? I don't know.
I don't think it's because you're old though, and like with some of the kills and stuff like that being the things, you know, that you can have a movie that you're there and enjoying because of the practical effects and stuff. That's fine. And Hatchet 1 did that well because they gave you some good throwbacks and homages to stuff. But now we've had 4 movies and the kills and the gores are not really any different than what we've seen already. It's just more of the same stuff. Whereas he could have, there's a whole well of stuff that he could have tapped from the 80s gone back to the 70s or something and pulled back some more, pulled in some more homages just to make that part of it even more interesting.
I would argue that even 18-year-old me wouldn't have found that overweight man's tiny penis. To
Yeah, like
be
that
funny
joke.
anyway.
Honestly, that joke was the worst thing in this movie. I think 'cause
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause
I
it
agree.
wasn't funny.
I agree. And it went on for that whole sequence is like a minute long.
Yeah, there's this dick again. Like,
Uh,
and I'm all for equality of boobies and PPs like in movies, but like it's like that can't be like teenage boys love to see TNA in a movie, like that can't be entertaining for a female or that it was gross. It was a gross dick. Like if you put a nice dick in the movie, like at least you're trying to help people out, but you're just putting this little chubby dick.
To be honest with you, for a lot of the ladies watching the movie, that's probably their like worst fear of going to a horror con is that they're going to see that.
So I wanted to mention too, like some cameos in here. You got quote unquote Jonah from the new Mystery Science Theater shows up in the opening scene flashback. I love that dude. He's pretty funny in it. Like that scene actually made me laugh. I think the first 10 minutes of this movie, I was pretty into it until it kind of the pacing dies.
Yeah, it's the plane that kills everything.
Yeah,
in
100%.
this movie for me.
So he shows up. Felissa Rose, who was the star of the original Sleepaway Camp, plays this guy's
agent.
Yeah, she wasn't
publicist or something.
Wasn't great.
Yeah, I actually will go to bat for her. I thought she was one of the better sort of like performances.
She didn't bother me. She was
the character was annoying, but I think that was the point. I'd agree. Like she was decent.
I loved that there was a gag where she gets on the plane and she offers him like literally any drug that you can imagine that you might want to take on a plane, and then some you might just want to take otherwise. And the plane crashes, and then there's like they're all freaking out, and then there's like a sequence where he looks back and she's just like totally passed out. I appreciated that. Yeah. So.
Well, she also woke up and started yelling, "Who took my drugs?"
Yeah.
Also, sorry, Casey, I was just gonna say, Tiffany Shepis is also in this movie. She's a fairly notable B movie queen from like the early 2000s, I would say, who's still kind of been around doing work. So, and then she's trapped on the ground for 3/4 of the movie, and that was kind of my funniest, potentially unintentional, like low budget moment where she's supposedly trapped under like debris from the plane, but literally it was like they went and got scrap plumbing pipes and just laid them on top of her, but didn't secure them, so you can just see it moving around while she's like struggling.
You could see it moving.
Right.
And just to throw it out there for your completionists out there, her boyfriend in the movie was Brian Quinn, who's in Impractical Jokers, which I don't watch, but the only reason I know is because he's does one of the podcasts on Kevin Smith's podcast network on Tell Him Steve Dave.
He's also the medicine woman, if you're interested. Brian Quinn. You get that one, John?
Yeah, I'm trying to ignore it.
Anything else you guys liked in this movie?
No.
So that first scene that we talked about with Jonah Ray and the girl, they're out there in the boat and stuff. There was some pretty funny shit in there, and even just beyond just the kill, because that's when we also see Tyler Mane shows up, who is Michael Myers,
right,
in the Rob Zombie flicks. But the whole scene when she realizes he's getting ready to ask her to marry him, and she starts crying and smearing and snot everywhere is pretty fucking funny.
I was amused by that. I mean,
I agree.
Again, like that whole scene like had me probably like I was excited for after that scene when I was like, oh, this has got some legs to it potentially.
What is going on with you, John? Like, what the fuck?
It's the beard.
To me, the biggest pop I got from this whole movie was when after they crash, or no, I'm sorry, before the plane crashes, a charring body falls out of the sky, and the tour guide dude runs over and takes his pulse. I don't know why. I thought that was like the funniest thing. Like that was just a good example of a well-timed, dumb like B-movie joke that really hits.
Yeah, but that tour guide was one of the better characters overall, I think, too.
Yeah, the ratio is just super off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I mean to me the main guy, Andrew Yang, he's the worst in the film.
Yeah.
He's terrible. He's a terrible actor.
Yeah. I just didn't understand,
John,
like
you mean,
why hang it on him?
John, you didn't like really connect with his plight and his whole emotionally resonant journey that he took?
Oh God.
Well, my guess is
it's-
he was. I mean, I don't remember, but presumably he's the only one that survived. So I guess that was all you had.
Yeah. But
Uh,
it's sad too,
yeah.
though, because we all remember that, like from the first one, and him and his fake Creole accent was actually pretty good. So you could do better.
Listen, man, it was literally a decade ago. There's no way my brain could recall if I
Yeah.
actually thought he was
Yeah.
good or not.
But
I'm looking at his page right now. Here's the thing that's a little confusing, and again, like Hatchet Completist might be upset about this. So he's in all 4 films,
But
the
different
actors.
names, right? Like,
Yeah. So he plays Sean in Hatchet 1. He then plays oh shit, I just lost it. But basically, Hatchet 3, he plays this character, Andrew.
Weird.
So I guess this is like the immediate. It's not. That would indicate that it's Hatchet 3 that they're referencing that he survived, but it isn't the 10-year. I mean, it's not in real life the 10-year anniversary. I don't know.
No,
yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Joe, you said on your version you saw like a post-credit sequence.
Oh yeah, it's with what the heck's her name from
Danielle-
the Halloween movie?
Danielle
Yeah,
Harris.
Danielle Harris. Yeah, so pretty much they have a it goes to like news footage of them, going through the wreck and stuff, and they have like an interview with like I don't know, firefighter or whatever, saying that like there's a bunch of bodies, and then they find one in like the Victor Crowley house, and pretty much she stands up out of a chair and she's like, I've been waiting for you, and she's got like a shotgun. So it leads me to believe that there's going to be a sequel to this, and it's going to be Danielle Harris fighting him.
I did love the very, very end when he gets tackled into the thing. I thought that was like,
Yeah.
it was a really funny, like, I don't know, very official way to end the movie. Not official is the word I'm not looking for, but like, hey, this is what's happening. There's no other possibility.
I got
Yeah.
a good laugh out of the tour guide's line there too when he told the girl with the funny voice that I'd have your babies before he ran off and
Yeah.
jumped into the plane engine.
I was
Yeah.
into that.
I like that guy. He's funny.
Hmm.
I'll give him that. All right, guys. Would you
Joe
recommend?
can't even give us that one.
No.
It's too much.
Would
No, I
you-
refuse.
Too far.
Would you recommend Victor Crowley? John Schnars.
For Hatchet Completists only.
Are they out there? They must be, right?
There's got to be some.
Joe.
If you're a Hatchet completist, you need to re-examine, some things you're doing in life. I would say no on any level.
Casey.
I would say only in a festival setting.
Yeah, if you got a chance to see like a screening of this and Adam Green was going to be there, I would 100% go.
Mm.
I think.
Eric, would this land on your worst of list by chance? Doesn't hurt to put it and then bump
Yeah,
it
why don't
later.
we put it there as a placeholder for now?
Mhm.
Is this? You have something else on there?
Oh
didn't you
yeah,
put
no,
on-
I would like Annihilation as my number 1 for the year.
Oh, interesting.
Insidious is on your worst of also.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah, did you have this above or below Insidious in the worst rankings?
well, wait, I think the Insidious is worse than this.
Yeah. Okay.
Insidious is my worst movie of the year, no question. Last year, I did actually call that Bye Bye Man would be my worst, and I was correct. And
Yeah, but you
so-
called that when we saw the trailer, just to be clear.
and I continued to be
That-
right after I
That
saw
makes
it.
it more impressive. I
Yeah,
would say.
thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Someone appreciates me. All right,
yeah.
guys, let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
There is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution without change, without passion, and without logic. It lives to kill. A mindless eating machine. It will attack and devour anything. It is as if God created the devil and gave him jaws. Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
From the best-selling novel, Jaws, rated PG, maybe too intense for younger children.
Hey, this is Sasha Jensen from Halloween 4, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
We're back. Sorry, I missed.
Have any of you ever read the book Jaws?
No.
No.
I missed my cue because I was busy tweeting BC that we need a gif of Joe dancing in his Boba Fett helmet. But now I just said it on the show, so he'll probably hear it. So I'll just keep going. Fan mail. There was a couple things, John, last week that I skipped because nobody was here. You guys weren't here, so anything relating to you guys directly, I skipped. And so here we go. We got Paul requesting Joe's Sam Jackson voice.
I wish I could remember where that's from.
Yeah, who knows?
Paul, let us know.
We got Lee. Lee says, catching up listening to your Cult of Chucky episode while out running and probably during the whole duration, couldn't help but wonder, who do you think would win in a tag team wrestling match consisting of Chicago's finest residents, Candyman and Chucky, versus Brock Lesnar and the Lady Gremlin from Gremlins 2?
Oh.
Would
Lady
her,
Gremlin's a lady. She don't fight.
Would her powers of seduction, though, be useful against Candyman? Remember, he did die after falling in love with a white lady.
Oh, all right.
She's green though.
She is.
Good argument.
That's a good point.
She is gorgeous.
That might only increase her powers of seduction. I think if you are having a true wrestling match where you're following the rules of wrestling, you got to give it to Brock Lesnar. I mean,
I think
I'm
once
gonna go-
anyone gets a load of those gams, they're in trouble.
I'm going with Candyman because he can use Chucky as a club.
And now I'm just picturing Brock Lesnar German suplexing the Lady Gremlin, and it's weird. Next up, Andrew.
Turkish pile driver.
I watched The Ritual the other day, and like Eric, I was disappointed by the end. The movie had great potential, but it really ended so badly. I thought it was going to be this redemption story when the main character was going to discover his balls and save his friends, and then be transported back to the time his friend died and step up and save him. But sadly, it ended with blah, blah, blah stuff I'm not going to read. What kind of ending was that? Oh, and in the shop at the start of the movie, the taller guy with the Benny had a knife, and the shorter one had a pipe. So 2 people, 2 different weapons. Keep up the great work. Awesome.
I'm not arguing the fact that he had a knife. I'm arguing the fact that he did not hit the guy with the knife.
Okay, that's fine, but that's not what you said on the show.
Well.
For the record. This is from Scott. Scott says, hey guys and gals, love the show. Been listening since 2008 BJ before Joe. That's pretty funny.
good times.
I get sad every time Eric says he's going to read emails and then no one ever emails. So anyway, I watched the Cabin Fever remake last night. I loved the original and I was drunk, so I said, what the hell? What a mess. It was actually quote unquote presented by Eli Roth, whatever that means, but had none of his humor. But I think you guys should review it on the show for one reason. The worst treatment and gut-wrenching death of a female character I've ever seen on screen since Martyrs. Sophie or Cece would have a field day twittering with this director. Keep up the good work. Love you guys.
I like that.
Oh, Jesus. The getting drunk and watching a random horror movie is also a problem that I run into sometimes.
Yeah.
And it almost never ends well.
Yeah, no.
I can only hope that Eli Roth presenting this movie it started out like Mia Jovovich at the beginning of The Fourth Kind, where he walked out and said, "It's real, people. It's real."
No.
Good old.
I think if you see presented by Eli Roth, that's like you should probably stay away from this.
Good old Mia Jovovich, my favorite actress. My favorite model turned actress. Next up is from Rhiannon. Dear BGH crew, I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed your Ritual edition of the podcast. There are a few episodes of the show that I've listened to repeatedly and always keep with me on my phone, and the Ritual will now be one of those. I was hoping you'd review this film, and I was very interested to hear what you thought of it. Hearing your thoughts about it was a delight, as well as this being a particularly amusing edition of the show. I'm very pleased you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more, or you enjoyed it a lot more than I expected any of you to, actually. I wasn't blown away by it. I only realized how much it got under my skin when I found out how much I was thinking about it on the nights that followed and how creeped out I was getting when I remembered parts of it. The image of the guy unconsciously worshiping the horrible effigy upstairs is the shot that's really stuck with me, and I was glad to hear you mention that scene in your review. Looking forward to more of your great shows. It's been so great to see BGH turn into what it is now, with so much quality entertainment produced week after week. The main BGH podcast is funnier than most comedy shows and still full of thoughtful and earnest discussion that's absent from most film review podcasts. Warmest regards to all of you.
Shut up, you.
That's from Rhiannon. Thank you, Rhiannon. We really appreciate that, as always. Info.
I started reading the book, The Ritual. I got it from the library over the weekend. It's pretty good. I like it so far.
Nice.
I don't think John actually read it.
Yeah. Maybe I was drinking too much at the time. Who knows?
Info at bloodygoodhorror.com. Hey, John.
Yes, Eric.
We're also on Twitter. I'm pulling up our
So
hashtags quick so I can tell you where we are at.
Well, I was just going to ask, did you guys read the Dirty Bennett, the Clay Bennett ones last week? I think that the 27th was the date. Or do you not know?
You might have. Did you read the 26th ones? Because that's when you guys recorded. This is great. How about just go backwards, John, from the most recent, and then Eric, you tell us.
Stand
There
by.
you go. All right.
No.
Joe, good idea. Look at
Thanks,
you.
bro.
Ideas. Idea,
Hey.
man. It's the shirt.
Innovation.
It's the shirt.
Bada-ding dong doy.
All right, so I'm going to start at the top here. Our buddy Skylar's at Skizbot, Skizzbot.
That's not
I
the top.
think Macaulay Culkin is now a chud. That's a Mark quote from episode 25.
God, did
chud.
we really do Chud that long ago? That's wild, man.
Yeah.
You
Yep,
missed one,
that's-
John. You missed Clay Bennett.
No, well, I'm working down, Eric. That was what we just discussed while you were pulling up the tweet.
Hey.
Oh,
Hey, did you hear about this Stranger sequel?
okay. Listen, to be fair, my Twitter is displaying those out of order. That's why.
Oh, because
Yeah, you gotta
probably
click. You
on
gotta click
latest.
latest.
I don't. Oh, I see.
So you guys, that was what I was asking. You didn't read the Clay Bennett ones last time.
No, we did not.
All right, this is friggin' amazing for everyone. I'm sure.
good.
All right,
Just out there, Eric. It's still flashing 12 o'clock.
No,
your,
I got
your
it.
VCR.
I got it. I'm good.
episode 311, VHS viral. Eric discussing the 2014 BGH year-end list. You know my list is right because I have I, Frankenstein in my top 10.
Oh, I love that
Uh,
movie. He lived in
yeah.
the church with all the gargoyles or whatever.
So
Shit was
Mark
great.
then says, can I list Jezebel 10 times for my top 10? What does that do to the math, John, if I do that? That Jezebel movie, that's
So
like
bad.
an all-time worst.
All-time worst.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should
We'll have to-
we should pull all of our top 10s and all the worst, and then have a ballot of what the worst movie we've ever reviewed is.
Ooh.
So I actually started
Put it
pulling
for a
that data
10-year
together.
anniversary.
Good. I'm way
Yeah.
into it, John.
I started pulling that together, actually, so we could do that.
I mean, it's bye-bye,
all right.
man, but still.
Yeah, it's up there. The two here from Clay Bennett. That's at Dirty Bennett. So this is an air quote. When your girlfriend goes out of town like that, that's what married guys call masturbation time. And that's Eric referring to when I guess the time my girlfriend was gone for the weekend planning our wedding.
I didn't realize
Episode
you
62.
got married during the course of the show, John. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been this is year 9
We have
for
been,
my wedding.
yeah, we
so.
have been doing this for
Thanks for the
literally.
invite, Dick.
We have been doing this for 100 years, so
Is it? I think that was the pre-Joe times. What did he call
Yeah.
it? PJ.
BJ.
BJ.
No, BJ.
Before Joe.
BJ. Yeah, and then the other one says, "This is an amazing throwback quote because it comes to us from T Dog, who we actually haven't given a shout out to in a long time.
Yeah.
T Dog was an OG listener and someone who used to call into the at the time voicemail line,
Yeah.
which again was another amazing thing that people can listen to in those classic episodes. But the quote just says, "Tickle our taint with the Google report."
T-Dog,
So episode 62, Friday the 13th,
Yeah,
the 2009.
T-Dog is like the OG BGH fan, and he would like
Yep.
he wrote or voicemailed in every week for years, and then like after a while he would just randomly disappear for like 6 months and then come back,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
real worried about him there for a little bit, but
I'm worried about him now. Where is he?
Yeah, we haven't talked to him for a while.
no. Well, the other OG was the head. I mean, that's
Oh, yeah.
he's still
Yeah.
He would get more mad about Philadelphia bashing than you. So angry. I
yeah,
loved it.
yeah. Hey, Joe, we're living the high life now with
Yeah.
our Super Bowl win. So
Yeah, you're eating that fancy high grade horse shit.
All right, so that's all we got. We're gonna move over to our other.
No. I haven't read any of the next like 5 except for the one about Tom Hardy.
Oh, God
That's
damn it,
my
I just
point.
closed it.
That we
All right,
skipped a bunch.
There, you know what? I've got them in front of me if you want.
you
me.
got to read them. Somebody
So
else is reading them. I
Pick
just
up,
closed it.
pick up with Monica's, and then
All right.
skip the next one, and then there's like 3 more we didn't read.
Mi corazón, mi amor. He's the only person in Bloody Good Horror history to completely destroy a toilet at Horror Hound Weekend. And that was Eric introducing Schnars on episode 200, Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, we did. There was
There we
definitely
go.
another toilet destroyed at some point, but Schnars was the
Well,
worst by far. And to be
not-
fair, it was probably whatever Casey had done in there previously.
Not a lot of healthy eating.
Lies.
Next up from Skizbot. This is John regarding getting caught trying to sneak into a theater to see The Orphanage. Yeah, they nailed me pretty hard, Mark. And then Mark replies, "Is that what they do when they catch you, John?" That was episode 12, Cloverfield.
Oh,
Another one from Mi Corazón, mi amor. She says, I am positively, well, she didn't say, I am positively moist with anticipation. And that was Eric, episode 200, Return of the Living Dead. Keep going. You
Yeah,
missed
keep
these?
going, keep
All
going.
right. Jesus, what did you do last week?
Yeah, I was like, did you
well,
have a show?
these were all involving you guys, so I just saved them.
Oh, well, the next one involves Cece, though. Skizbot,
Yeah, I did.
Casey, while discussing reading real books versus Kindles. Someone did invent a spray that smells like an old book. And then Cece replies, you can just spray it on yourself. And then Eric wraps up with, and then bonus, you can smell your own farts while you're at it. Episode 325, it follows. Another one from Skizbot. This is from Eric. I just fucking find it hilarious every time when the chick is slapping his dong around. Episode 15, Cannibal Holocaust.
It's true.
One more from Skizbot. And
I think
that
this is
should be
it. Yeah, I think this is
All right. This is Mark saying Joe's spin-off podcast is going to be half butt talk, half TMZ talk. We're starting to build a perfect show here. And
Yeah.
that was episode 230, The Cell.
There you go.
Yep.
Thanks, Joe. You sounded very
Good times.
enthusiastic reading all those. I'm really glad we nailed those.
Appreciate it.
All right, John.
So, all right, Ask BGH. We've got a couple here. So the first one comes from Dilly D. Williams, our buddy Dylan. He says, I rewatched Alien Covenant and listened to the BGH review. I'm wondering if Scott wanted the story he is telling of David to link into the world of Blade Runner and the replicants, or if perhaps he wanted the story to be Blade Runner sequel and not Alien. What do you think?
Yeah, that's
Ooh.
kind of crazy, but I actually kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's not the craziest thing I've ever heard, but
Yeah.
I don't think it is what he was trying to do with the movie.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. I'm ready to walk down that road at some point, maybe.
Yeah.
So, cool. Okay, Allison Howard at RealToad77.
No,
I have
fake
something,
ones.
and this is interesting because she says I have something to, and then hashtag AskBGH. Is
Oh, I
anyone
like it.
actually eating a giant pickle in a pouch as their chosen movie snack?
Oh, I saw this.
Who are these freaks? And then she actually tagged Joe in this one. So
Yeah.
this is a picture she sent us of the Big Papa pickle in a
Pickle
pouch.
in a pouch. I am a strong supporter of pickle in a pouch. I've
Would
never
you-
seen them at a movie
I
theater,
was
but
gonna
I would.
say, would you dare to eat
Oh,
that during a movie?
Absolutely, absolutely. Pickles
That'd
there.
be messy.
Yeah, no, no, it's in a pouch. You just crack open the top. You can drink the juice. There's a lot you can do there.
I mean, not only would it be messy, it would stink.
I've never heard of this food,
Really?
but I'm interested. I'm actually pretty into poop.
You never heard? You never heard of a giant pickle before, John?
Pickle in a pouch.
Wait, but like, do you eat the pouch? Is it like it's in like a
No,
like
it's
a
like,
corn
you know,
dog wrapping or
It's
something?
an individually wrapped pickle in a like in
It's like a plastic baggie.
Yeah, plastic bag.
Oh, hell yeah, I would eat that. I love pickles.
yeah,
Pickles
right?
are great.
It's great. It's on the go. You can find them at like a Wawa or a
All
Quick
right.
Check. You should open up your peepers there, John.
I'm good.
You're
with
missing
Alright.
out.
this. I'm good. With
Big
this
Papa.
discussion.
They don't
Yeah.
have it at the bodega on the corner, Joe. So you know.
I find that hard to believe, actually.
I mean, they have pickles. They have a fucking jar of pickles. You stick your hand in, and you just take
got
out a
no
pickle.
pouch. You gotta get pickle. You gotta get that pouch for the pickle.
It's a BYOP. Bring your own pouch, dude.
I know what John's getting for Christmas.
Hey,
I'm
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 gonna
into it.
go on Amazon and these pickles in a pouches will be delivered to your house before the end of the show.
Nice. Okay, just 2 more here. So we got one from our buddy Brian Lassiter, at B Lassiter. Why is Joe buying a drug rug? Ask BGH.
Why
I
aren't
mean,
And this is from 7 hours ago, so he
he
was
explained
on
it,
this.
and I still don't really get it.
And I corrected him because buying is not the right term. Bought
I
is
like
the
Joe, have you worn this? Here's my real question. Have you worn this outside of your house?
This literally, I got home from work and it was there waiting for me. So
Okay.
this is like an hour fresh.
And you were like, "Oh, I gotta wear this for the show."
Yeah, I was literally because it was down in our laundry room and I didn't see it when I walked in. It was in a box and we sat down to eat. My wife is like, something came in the mail today, and I like almost like knocked over the entire table.
Get
like,
out of
just
my way.
Like they were still eating. I'm like ripping open the box like it's like Christmas morning. It was,
Face palms his kid.
I mean, listen,
See.
I'm gonna throw it out there. There's a whiff of midlife crisis with this
A little
shirt.
bit, a little bit.
John, have we met? There is a pretty hefty stake of midlife crisis.
All
in
right,
most
all right,
of it.
good. Listen, we're all on board then.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Our buddy Robel, he asks, where would you rank Victor as a horror villain? Top 10 or lower?
Not
Lower.
top 10, dude. Come on, like
Or-
it's. I mean,
I
at,
mean, I
at
actually
best,
think top 10 is not crazy.
at best, he's doing like an impersonation of people who are actually in the top 10.
I mean, it's Kane Hodder redoing his Jason act.
Like, I'm pretty sure I'd put Leprechaun above Victor. Miller.
What?
Critters.
Hold on.
I put Critters above him.
Oh God. So here's the thing.
I mean, let's do it. Let's
Critters
do it
is
right
not
now.
really a villain, right? Like that's kind of like a monster. There's like a bunch of them.
Okay.
No, it's
Problem
multiple-
Child. The kid from those Problem Child movies I
Jason-
would put above him.
All right, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger,
Leatherface.
Leatherface, Candyman, Chucky. So there's 6, and I've only named the obvious ones. All right, let's say maybe Anthony Perkins from Psycho. He reprised that role in like 3 or 4 movies. There's 7.
Yeah.
Hannibal Lecter, 8. Come on, you guys got this.
Kid from Problem Child.
Come on, guys, we got this.
Even Leslie Vernon,
I mean, well, I was gonna say, like, do you count like Dracula and fucking
Well, and
you
that,
know,
yeah, of course. Then it's no brainer.
Frankenstein, all that nonsense?
Yeah.
it's Frankenstein.
Let's put it this way: if you were to say top 10 horror villains of the last 20 years, like,
I would maybe put him in like top 10 of like recent movies we've watched in
mean,
the past week. For the
I
show.
mean, like,
Yeah.
Bye Bye Man is up there, and then like, this guy. Yeah, so yeah.
Bye Bye Man is up there.
I
Yeah,
just
this is a joke.
I don't like the look of him. Like I'm looking at this picture of him right now, and either they're putting like extra muscle prosthetics on Kane Hodder to make him look like a monster,
no,
or he's like
they
literally
definitely are.
juiced out of his mind. But either way,
No.
what it does is it makes him look like he's got funny, weird like T-Rex arms because like his
Yeah.
upper arm is so ridiculous looking.
So I like, and like one of the other things I was going to mention, I feel like they, when they're editing some of the sequences where he's like running around and just where he's moving in general, it's like turned up like 1.25.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
fast.
definitely.
Yeah.
Because I like it because it gives him like this like little kind of manic element to him. I don't know. I'm pro Victor Crowley. I'm just
I
gonna
do
go. on that.
not understand where you're coming from here, John.
Yeah,
Like,
all right. Well, listen.
I think we
different
all
strokes,
expect
you know.
better from you.
I mean,
there was a second part to this question that I wanted to save. So he said, also, can Joe sing "Teenage Dirtbag" by Wheatus?
Oh,
So-
which
I'm just a teenage
to go back to the beginning of the episode, that is 100% on my running playlist.
Of course it is.
Listen to Iron Maiden, baby.
There it is.
I've got 10 tickets to Iron Maiden. Great, classic. Classic.
Yeah. All right, that's all we got.
Don't say
All I'm saying
maybe.
is, Schnars, it's all about the Benjamins. What?
Just
Mhm.
let's let Joe sing us out here. Don't worry about that.
That Busta Rhymes song in there too, Joe. That song is awesome.
Oh, which one?
Whatever. It's the Busta Rhymes song.
Yeah.
Come on, Busta. He's had a little bit of a run.
No, I think
Yeah.
there's two. I think there's two on there.
I don't know, the one that I knew.
So, Eric, while we're fading out of here, I did look it up. The director of Strangers: Pray at Night is the same director of 47 Meters Down, Other Side of the Door, and the forthcoming 48 meters down.
Oh my good lord! None of that
That's
makes
not
me.
helping my hype.
Yeah,
here.
none of that. None of that helps.
Oh, you know, there you go.
Although 47 meters down did have Mandy Moore in it, and she is America's sweetheart. So
It was a success. Like, I mean, it did well. So.
Yeah. Break Your Neck. That's the Busta Rhymes song. Or Put Your Hands Where
Break
My
Your
Ass
Neck.
Can
Yeah,
See.
it's that one. It's that one. Yeah, it's good.
Classics.
So I'm not convinced that Strangers 2 is actually going wide theatrically, but if it does, that's theoretically what we're doing next week. So there you go.
I like that Eric says Strangers 2 deny us.
Yeah, I'm a skeptic of Strangers 2. I don't think it exists.
Oh, I'll believe it when I see it, Strangers 2.
If not, we have, I don't know, some other stuff that we'll watch.
It's going to 2,400 theaters, so that should be pretty widely available.
Sweet. All right, guys. Bloody good
All
horror.
right. See you next time.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Bada ding dong doy.
See you.
Bye bye.